From in the beginning to the musical apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What. I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. Before we begin today's regularly scheduled program, I have 4 new best friends to thank. Joshua Hill, John Nightingale, David Cutter, and last but certainly not least, Andy McWaters. Thanks for supporting the blasphemy. Your stickers are either on their way or leaving the studio soon. You too can be immortalized in BSW history by becoming a patron of the show. Simply go to patreon.com/BSW the podcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will go to the many expenses associated with the show and will get you access to each week's episode, unaired conversations, including the very first 10 episodes, and exclusive BSW merch. That's patreon.com/BSW the podcast. That being said, believing before evidence. What sounds more rational? Believing something to be true after you have tested and confirmed it, or believing something to be true before testing or confirming it? The answer is clear. It makes no sense to believe in and promote a truth without verification. This is how religious faith works, not science and reason. Faith, used in the Christian context, is a form of pretending. Make believe it's all real and it will become real to you. Like, if I clap my hands really fast, I can save the life of a fairy. Reality may be absurd at times, but absurdity is not reality. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I didn't
figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
All right. Today's special guest is Christian author, professional engineer, D. Neil Elliott. Welcome to the show, Neil.
Well, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here and, to have this conversation with you.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book, Higher Road?
So A Higher Road, it's a book that I wrote to help people. And it is, the part 1 of the book is really kind of what you're going to learn. Part 2 is a candid memoir. It's a bit of a hybrid inspirational and a memoir. So part 2 is this memoir. Part 3 is this process I went through to learn about consciousness, so based in science. And part 4 is some new truths that I unveiled for people. And part 5 is my process as I followed the 7 steps to go through that took me from this brink of suicide to absolute love, peace, and inner peace and joy and abundance in over the course of a year. And that's what, and it took me a little while to figure. I wanted to share this from the rooftops after this happened to me, and I thought best way to do that is get on the rooftops and shout, of course, but I thought I'd look like an idiot, so so I didn't do that. Took me a couple of years to figure out what I should do is write a book, explain exactly the process I went through, explain my childhood so that people have context, and kind of where I got to, how I got to this point of sitting down at a kitchen table, crafting my suicide note, planning my suicide. And then what, kind of took me to this place of an entirely new view of the world and people and life and what our true purpose is.
New view. Now, how did this new view come about?
Well, it's by following this process that I did. So, let's start a little bit at the beginning, and then we can talk about that. So, I was born in 1960, just to give everybody context. Professional engineer, with an MBA, and I've worked, in the corporate world for over 34 years in the hydroelectric industry.
Hmm.
And in 2002, I went from employment into, self-employment consulting. And when you do that, you don't get paid for taking time off. You don't get paid when you're sick, all of that stuff. So life became about work, work, work. And what I slowly did, unbeknownst to me, but this is what happened, is from 2002 to 2015, I slowly drove myself into this really deep, dark, despondent depression.
Hmm.
And I woke up, kind of realizing, okay, I'm in this place, but we're all great actors in our environment, right? We wear this facade, we can project whatever we want to family, friends, and clients. And so no one knew I was there. My family didn't know, my wife or kids didn't know, my clients certainly didn't know. And I thought I need to do something to get out of this state I'm in. So I picked up some science books, I picked up some newly issued spiritual books, and I went through this process that I had tried in the 90s to change how I was thinking. But I went through this process over a couple-year period. And at the end of that 2 years, I just, so November 2017, I was in this state, I was done with life. I was really deeply depressed. It felt like anything, I made a lot of money, I spent a lot of money. It felt like anything that I did was not, life wasn't worth living. I was like totally done with it. It seemed like, life was just a misery. And why would I go on for another 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years in this miserable state? There didn't seem to be any purpose other than misery. And so I sat down at this kitchen table, as I mentioned. Our house had sold after being on the market for 5 years. And my wife jumped on a plane to go to Toronto, Ontario, Canada to visit family and friends. And I sat down at this little 1-bedroom rental apartment kitchen table and planned out my suicide and crafted my suicide note. And I thought, I'm going to plan this out for 3 months so I can ensure my wife will be okay financially. I get rid of all the crap that we accumulate over a lifetime. So no one has to deal with it after I'm gone.
Hmm.
And about a week prior to sitting down, some information came to me in this really fortuitous fashion that promised to liberate me from my thinking if I studied and followed it.
Hmm.
And I was looking for any little sliver of hope to kind of hang on, to carry on. So I thought, okay, well, I'll push out the date of my suicide. If this works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, I can always pull the trigger.
Hmm.
And so I started to study it. And as I mentioned earlier, a year later, I woke up. It would have been November 2018. I woke up, my depression's totally gone. I was just in this state of peace and love and joy.
Hmm.
And nothing had changed in my environment, but how I viewed the world, how I, viewed what my purpose was, why I was here and what I'm meant to do. Like, it all became clear to me, and it was just this new state of being. And a month later, so the end of December 2018, I went into these 2 meditations 2 days apart. And I went into this meditation, and very quickly, my consciousness raised into a higher state of vibrational frequency, and the spiritual energy flowed in through my head, and then it filled my body, and then all of a sudden it just totally enveloped me in this unconditional love. And it's an unconditional love that we don't have the human language to describe. I just felt totally supported, non-judged. Didn't matter what anybody had done to me in the past or what I had done to anybody. It was just this blissful state. It was just so amazing. I didn't care what aches and pains my body had. I didn't care what illnesses it had. I wanted to stay there forever. And I came out of that meditation, and 2 days later, I had the exact same meditation. And at that point, I knew that the process I followed and the new knowledge I gained is our truth. And I just wanted to share it with everybody. And so that's how this all came about. That's why I wrote the book.
A very interesting story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. So, of course, my next natural question is who was sending you those feelings?
our creator.
God?
So when you go, yes, God. So whether you call it God or Yahweh or the Tao or the source of our being, whatever you want to call it, you go through this process. And I lay this out in my book. I don't tell anybody this material. I share it for free because you have to come to this material like a little child, full of
Yeah, I hear
inner,
that a lot. For sure.
kind of joy and curiosity, right? And so you come to that, you follow the process. And if you do that, I can tell you what happens is you go through this process of this inner cleansing and rebuilding of your consciousness.
Uh-huh.
And then you make this connection back with source, with God. We'll call it God in this conversation. So you make this connection back with God. And God is so spiritually refined and such a high frequency of vibration that it cannot enter into us and make itself known to us until we go through this process to start to do our cleansing and this reaching out and raising our vibrational frequency of our consciousness to make this connection back with source. And then when God starts to flow into you, or when source starts to flow into you, it helps you through this process of cleansing and coming back to your truth. And it's just, and I tell you, it's so magical and it's so beautiful. It is just, I'd like everybody to do this. Of course, everybody won't, but I would like everybody to do it.
Right.
Because I can tell you, the more people that do this, we will bring this world into this new era of love and peace that we so
all for love and peace,
desperately
100%.
need.
Definitely awesome. So can you describe this deity? You said there's a deity, you called it different things, but what is it to you?
It's unconditional love. We come from unconditional love, and at death of this body, we return to unconditional love. And we're here in this evolutionary process of the soul over many lifetimes, in varying genders, varying colors of skin, varying religions, sometimes not religious at all, sometimes wealthy, sometimes poor. And it's through this evolutionary process of the soul to get us to wake up and to come back and make this connection and then start to ascend spiritually, so that at the end of whichever lifetime that is, when you fully transcended your ego, you become this open and purified channel of the divine, of God, for it to express itself in you and through you and be this embodiment of unconditional love to everything and everyone in your environment. And when you do that, when you pass in that lifetime, when this body returns to dust, your soul will step out into the light and it will not need to be reincarnated again.
So you believe in reincarnation?
Yes.
Gotcha. Are you a Bible believer?
Well, so I grew up agnostic. My mother, I would say, was probably an atheist. My dad died when I was 5, youngest of 6. And as a child, I believe there was something bigger that created this beauty around us, all of this intricacy and everything. I didn't know what it was because I didn't have any training in that. And so I have read at the Bible. I have not read the Bible. I found it really difficult. I tried it when I was in my 20s and I couldn't understand it. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't working for me. So not discounting it, but it wasn't something that was working for me. So then, I've kind of skipped along in life and let my ego take control, like we all do, or most of us do. And, I ended up in this spot, and then coming back to, kind of understand this new knowledge and these new truths of, what was before the Big Bang, what happened at the time of the Big Bang, how the universe this material universe came to physical reality, and why and how we are here going through this process. And so there's many great things in the Bible. My understanding is the Bible was written about 60 years after the death of Jesus, and it's all a collection.
The Gospels were, yeah. So you don't believe in that God? Is that the God you believe in, the God from the Bible?
Well, tell me what you mean by the God from the Bible.
Yahweh, you mentioned earlier Yahweh.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
So
where you get your concept of God from, or is it from somewhere else?
no, it's from this new material.
So the new
So
material has given you a new concept of God. So
yes,
is it Jesus? Like, is Jesus part of that concept?
Jesus is absolutely part of that concept.
Okay, so
But
Jesus
but
is
God's
your God. Sorry, just really trying to narrow this
no
down.
source is God.
Source is God. Yahweh, we can call him
And
Yahweh. Or
Yahweh, you can call him
okay,
whatever you want,
so he is
or
that
yeah,
character from
whatever
the
you want.
Bible, then.
Well, God is unconditional love. God does not judge. God does not sit on a throne, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
God
Yeah,
does
yeah.
not sit on a throne. God does not judge. There is nothing that's right or wrong. There is a process that we are going through as an evolutionary process of the soul, for the soul to learn lessons, and the ego is part of this tool to create the individuality out of the wholeness and the unity of the divine. And so when you pass from this life, you go back to be part of that unity and wholeness of the divine, of which Jesus is part of that.
Okay, so why do you feel it's divine and unconditional love? Why do you feel that? Why do you think that's what it
One,
is?
because the new knowledge I gained, and then the other is
Knowledge again. We'll talk
that
about
I've experienced it. So I
so you've
have
had the feeling.
experienced this unconditional. Well, it's this thing that I just described to you about going into this meditation and being totally enveloped in unconditional love.
Right. Well, that's kind of a feeling, though. I mean, there's really no other way to
Oh yeah,
you felt it,
yeah.
or I mean, because I'm very confused. How does I mean, if you're not feeling it, what else? So I'm just trying to
No, you're
understand, man.
feeling it. Absolutely.
Okay.
No, you're feeling it.
Okay,
Absolutely. You're
cool.
feeling it. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you know that that feeling is coming from an unconditional super being somewhere? Unconditional love being super being
Because of this process I went through to learn this new knowledge, and then to make this connection back to where we come from and to where we return, to make this connection back to source.
Let me explain a little bit. So you've heard of Kali Ma, the Hindu goddess Kali Ma.
Vaguely, yes.
Okay, well,
I haven't followed all of that.
if you
but
didn't
yes,
know,
go ahead.
to get in tune with Kali Ma, you meditate, and then she'll send you good feelings.
Yes.
I have a list here of just a ton of people claiming to have witnessed and experienced the love and the positiveness that comes from meditating with Kali Ma. So how do you know it's Jesus and not Kali Ma?
Well, I've had conversations with Jesus. I've had
That's a whole new
conversations
level
with
there, Neil.
I've had conversations with Jesus. I have
Okay.
conversations with others, and so all of these. So you're how do I describe this? You're what we call gods, other than source itself. What we call gods are really our beloved brothers and sisters. And they are the same as you. We are all the same at soul level. Your soul is unconditional love. Everyone's soul is unconditional love. The way we behave in this world is the outcome and the expression of the ego that takes control through these patterns of thinking and feeling that we develop and reinforce from babyhood to adulthood. And as we do that and we take on these patterns of thinking and feeling, we bind down our soul and we shut it off from the light. And our process that at some point we start to go through individually on whatever path you've chosen, you will go through a process where you start to remove these bondages of the egoic bondages of the soul, to let the soul start to make this connection back to source and to eventually gain mastery in your life. And when your soul gains mastery in your life, you become this embodiment and expression of unconditional love.
I understand the concept. I kind of want to go back to that Jesus conversation, though. First off,
Yes.
what did Jesus sound like? Second off, how do you know it was Jesus? Did you see him? Was it physical? Was it was he really there?
Hang on.
Pausing for dramatic effect.
Yeah, exactly. Put it in an eye drop. So when I hear auditory, like actually it doesn't work that way. It's not auditory. It's more of
Oh, so it's not a physical voice.
It's more of an impression. It's more of a impression of words in your mind.
Thought. Those are called thoughts.
It's more than that though, because you hear the voice as well, but it's impressed in your mind. It's not like you're hearing it through the ears.
Well, I mean, so okay, let me try and help describe this because it's a little confusing for me. So once upon a time, there was a song playing in the car as a kid, and somebody had it on repeat. It was just playing over and over again. So, and they turned it off. And we were driving along. There was no sound whatsoever, but I could still hear that sound, still hear that song. Is that what you're talking about?
Still same kind of
But
thing.
it
And you can hear that, and you can hear the right tune. But you try. Maybe you can do this, but when I try and sing that song in the right tune, I don't necessarily get it right because
I just hear the same voice.
Hearing...
It was Michael W. Smith. It was a ridiculous song, but growing up Christian and all that. So, and it was just playing over and over again. I heard Michael W. Smith's voice playing that song, and it was the tune and everything. But that was all in my head. It wasn't actually playing. It was just my brain coming up with that. So how do you know it's not your brain coming up with that? How do you know it's not your own thoughts, your own music in your head? How do you know it's an invisible being sending you this?
Because you can, so as you go through this process, you will build new brain cells impressed with new knowledge under the topmost areas of the skull. And as you go through that process, that'll start out very small. It might end up, for me, it was the size of a dime. I didn't know what it was. It just felt kind of weird. And then over time that grew. And today you could put a bowl over my head, and that opening in my head is below my ears, down below my ears. So you put that's how big the opening is.
There's an opening in your head? Wait, hold on. I'm very confused here. There's an opening in your head, or was that a feeling thing?
It's, you could call it a crown chakra.
Oh, So that's beyond
me.
Chakras and whatnot.
So
it's not a real thing. It's just a feeling.
It's a feeling. But you impress new knowledge with new brain cells that operate at a higher vibrational frequency, and that allows source to make this connection with you and flow into you. And so you want a description of it, I'm describing it to you. And if you want more language, it's not going to make much difference for you. This is something that you have to enter into and feel for yourself. And when you feel this inflow of this energy, and you have these experiences that you have, then you will know that what you know is true. You actually have to experience it and enter into it in order to do that. And when you do it, then you know it's true. Intellectually, we could have a conversation about it for hours, but if you haven't experienced it, it's very hard to grasp.
This knowledge you gained, you speak of this knowledge quite a bit here. What knowledge did you gain that you didn't have before you started meditating?
For example, there's things in science we know today that, we didn't know 100 years ago, 200 years ago. For example, we know in science today that at a subatomic level, everything is just energy. And so, and if everything is just energy, then, so the science believes there was a Big Bang. They don't know of what. They believe that out of that Big Bang came electromagnetism and came this material universe, that this electromagnetism somehow randomly got together and fused to create elements. And then these elements randomly got together to create the first living molecule. And then these living molecules randomly got together to create the first living cell. And then over a period of, however many billions of years, we have all the life forms that we have today. That's what science kind of knows about through evolutionary process and through the work that they do.
But what's the
But they
knowledge
will
you gained?
never. So the knowledge I gained was what was before the Big Bang, the impetus for the Big Bang, why there was a Big Bang,
Gotcha.
and then how this material universe came about.
So how do
and
you know
how
that's
there
true?
is
How do you
it's
know
true.
that knowledge you've gained is actually knowledge is actually true? How do you know?
Well, you can, if you, these are good questions. If you follow this process and you have to enter into it and you have to enter it, and if you don't believe it, you will never know its truth because you will never enter
to
into the
believe it
truth to
first?
understand it. You have to believe it first. You got to
It's kind of
follow in
backwards,
faith,
isn't it,
my
though?
friend.
Isn't there anything
Well,
else?
is
there
it?
anything else in life that you
Is
do
it?
that way? No, yes, it's backwards,
Is
100%.
it?
Yes. I mean, why
And
believe something
why do you say it's backwards?
you don't even know if it's because first you get evidence and then you believe. You don't believe and then
Well,
wait
that's
for evidence. I'm not going to
as
believe
an
that
engineer,
Superman shot Kennedy. I'm not going to believe that. I mean, that doesn't make much sense, right? Why believe something without any evidence? Evidence first, then believe.
So as an engineer, I agree with you. Things that you can observe, you can measure,
Yeah.
you can calculate. Those are things we believe, right? It's repeatable. So, and I'm going to tell you that if you actually want to understand and make this connection back with source, you have to go through this process of using using this scientific knowledge that will bridge this gap between spirituality and science and will allow you to build the faith to carry on to where you then start to feel this inflow of energy. And when you do feel this, then you will know that what you've learned is true.
Is there anything in your professional life that you do that with? You just believe it to be true before you test it?
No, because this is all a human. This is the human experience. This is the human experience to create individuality, the whole. It's like you believe this body is solid. You believe, we take on this thing as this concept as a child that we believe, our body is solid. This table is solid. These lamps, this computer, this is all solid stuff around us. But we know in science today, this is not true. There's more space in all of this stuff than there's anything that's
solid. But to me,
it's
solid. To me, it's solid. I can't go through it.
Your perception,
it's solid. My reality.
Your perception.
It's solid. Yeah. Like I don't live in a microscopic world. It wouldn't be solid in a microscopic world. I live in reality in my world. And in my world, I can't go through a table. So it's solid. Right?
I understand. Yeah, no, I understand that. That's exactly what you're saying. And, but if you can stretch your understanding to understand that it's not actually solid, like what is this table? This table.
But to me, it's solid.
But
if I was Ant-Man, maybe he can go in between it and it wouldn't be solid for him, but he's Ant-Man and he has special powers. I'm Mike. I have no special powers. I can't shrink myself. So this table is solid to me. I don't know. That's just, I guess we can disagree on that one, but
we'll have to disagree on that. We perceive it to be solid, but it is actually not solid. It is actually, at a subatomic level, it's all energy. Everything is
at
just
that
energy.
Subatomic level, and I'm not at a subatomic level. So that's just
your soul is at a subatomic level.
My soul is at a subatomic level. So my soul is like super small.
Absolutely. Nope. Your soul is energy, my friend.
My soul is just energy, and it's at the subatomic level. So how do you know the soul is there? How does one know the soul is there? Yeah. How do you know a soul is present?
So what happens when you die?
I stop breathing.
You stop breathing. Yeah, that's the body, though.
I usually.
Do you believe that's it? Do you believe that's it? That when you pass away, that's it. You're done. That's the end of it.
Yes.
My
body, my brain,
and that's the end of it.
Yeah. What else is there? I mean, there's nothing else that comes out of me when I die. We have no scientific evidence of a soul whatsoever. And the idea of a soul, the whole concept of a soul, has so many holes and problematics with it. It just doesn't add up. The first one is, who creates the soul? Is there a soul factory somewhere? Do we recycle souls? What happens if one gets damaged? Is there a damaged soul? Who fixes it? Who's the one? Who's in charge of that? Like, it's just, there's so many different problems with it. Do dogs have souls? How are they running around? I don't know.
So, geez, how can I'm not trying to convince you. So here's the difference is no, yeah, they're just conversation. But I understand all your challenges because 3, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have said the exact same stuff you said.
And so meditation changed your mind. And now you think there's a soul, but you don't have a way.
I know.
Knowing.
Well, I know there. I know there is, but
how do you know there is?
That doesn't necessarily mean you have to believe it.
But how do you know?
It's entirely up to you. You have free you have free will, my friend. You can choose whatever you want to choose.
Thanks, Neil. But how does Neil know that you have a soul? How do you know?
Because I followed this process and I know that it's true.
Have you seen it? Have you
experimented on it? Pardon me?
Experimented on it? I mean, physically interacted with it at all? Have you spoken with it? I mean, I don't know. How do you know? No, like, it just, at this point, it sounds like faith, not knowledge.
So knowledge is, so what is knowledge? Knowledge is something that you learn that aligns with the store of information that you already have, that you have learned, and it becomes new knowledge.
Knowledge, yep. So it's
right.
You have evidence behind your knowledge. You've known it. You've seen it. You know it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know it, and then you believe it, and you believe it. You believe it. Kind of. What's the word I'm looking for? Without question. You believe it without question.
Well, no. I mean, you always question. Why would you not always question?
You question? Do you question? No, but you question it. You at some point you believe this body is solid. You believe it.
I question reality constantly, and I still have seen no soul or anything that has let me know that given me the knowledge. There it is, given me the knowledge of a soul being inside of me or anybody else. So you have this knowledge, which I think is more faith because you've never interacted with it. Or seen it.
I have interacted with it, but me telling you I've interacted with it is not necessarily you going to change your opinion or your belief.
No, but it's weird,
right?
And I want to know more about that story.
Well,
like the time you talked with Jesus, that was interesting. But now you've interacted with a soul. Whose soul did you interact with?
Mine.
You've interacted with your own soul.
Yeah.
How did that go about? How did that work? Was it like an out-of-body experience or what?
Happens in meditation.
So you've interacted, did you have a conversation with it? High fives?
Absolutely.
All of the above.
Conversation.
What was the conversation you had with your soul? This is interesting.
Conversation. Your soul is always working to help you come back to the truth, my friend. So your soul would like you to wake up. And until you wake up, you leave your ego in control until you wake up. Then your soul is always prompting you to go through this process, however you get there, whatever path you take. And then when you do that, eventually, as you continue through this process, you'll be able to interact with your soul. Your soul has your highest good in mind. And
how do you know that, Neil?
How do I know that?
Yeah.
I just do.
That's not a sufficient answer. But how do you know
it might not be
things?
Sufficient,
it seems like
it might not be sufficient.
Just wishful thinking.
I don't need to. No. It might be wishful thinking for you, and I understand that. I respect totally all the questions that you're making, but you're asking me to use human language to describe something that I'm telling you. You have to go through the process and enter into it, and when you do, then you know it's true.
Is there anything else in life that works?
If you're not willing to do that, then you carry on with your life as you do. And
I've done
good.
the meditation thing. It doesn't
that.
sit well with me. I just too much anxiety. But so how do you know that? How does that like it's basically where I'm at. It's like, how do you know these things? Like you claim all this knowledge, but
if you read my book, you'll understand the process and you can make a decision for yourself. If you decide so. My recommended way is you read it cover to cover, understand the process in its entirety. If it resonates with you, then you go back and start with some of the science material or directly step one. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's totally okay. Then I just say either put it on your shelf to read 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, or pass it on to somebody else without any colorful commentary to let them discover for themselves whether this process, this truth will make sense to them and resonate with them. And if it does, you can it may totally transform their life. It might be the biggest gift you ever give them.
I totally understand your eagerness to share love and joy with everybody. I really do. I appreciate that. I mean, that's awesome. I think it's just a strange way to go about it. I think there's better ways, but it worked for you, and I'm happy that you went through with it and you didn't go through with the other thing. That's awesome. Good job. I mean, anything that can break you through that is a plus at the moment. But I think at the end of the day, at the end of our I don't know, our lives here, I think it's better to believe more true things than false things. And what I'm hearing is there's no real anything else in life that this works with. It only works with this invisible beings that are, I'm not real sure. Are they around us right now? Or like, I don't know, you said you talked to Jesus but it was somebody else. It wasn't Jesus. It was another soul or person. No. Okay. So you did talk to Jesus himself.
I've talked to all kinds. So the good thing here, my friend, is that our consciousness fabrics are now intertwined, and we can have a little chuckle about this after we both pass from this lifetime.
There you go. Well, I don't know if I'll be chuckling after I'm dead, but I wish I was. Will. That'd be great. We could still laugh together afterwards. Again, it's more like that wishful thinking. It's the whole heaven thing. You're going to see your family in heaven again, when you die. It's a pretty story that you tell kids or other people that are scared of death.
Did you say you grew up Christian?
I did.
Yeah. So I did not, but so you grew up Christian. So what happened with your your childhood and your faith, so to speak?
Well, I lost the faith after I read the Bible and realized that it wasn't based in reality. Neither was my faith. My faith wasn't based in reality either. There's no invisible man sending me happy thoughts.
So the Bible is this collection of, my understanding, because I haven't read the whole Bible, but the Bible is this collection of stories by second or third parties, people that heard stories and shared stories about something that they didn't necessarily understand when the teachings were being taught. And so they created then their concept of Christianity or what's in the Bible, I should say, their concept of those stories and what they meant. And it's like as well as I do, like if I was having a conversation with you and I shared a story with you, and if there's 10 people around the table, I whisper this story to you, you whisper the story to the next person, and the line goes all the way around the table. By the time it comes back to me, it's an entirely different story.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, no, 100%. Right?
Because everybody interprets it with their patterns of thinking and feeling that they have developed and honed over this lifetime, and you put it in your own context. So your human mind is when we when we're born, and this body that we have is like a rented vehicle. So your soul's in this vehicle, your little I mind of ego takes control of your life. It can only use the forces of electromagnetism to create these experiences for you. And you start, your little I mind of ego starts to, absorb everything that's in its environment up to about age 5, so your family's culture, their religion, the language they use, whether it's denigrating and hateful or whether it's loving and kind, that kind of stuff. And you're going through this process of embedding in your subconscious mind these patterns of thinking and feeling. Then at age 5, the brain develops where it can start to make its own decisions. But you've already your personality started been shaped and honed and hued by your environment that you were born into. Then as you grow from, age 5 onward, you go out to school, you have other experiences, you gain other knowledge, you're continuing to program your subconscious mind. You reinforce these patterns of thinking and feeling and these concepts you have. And then that's what you carry with you. This is your egoic mind. So this body is like a rented vehicle that is a self-driving car. your little I mind of ego is programming the self-driving aspect of this car, putting in this computer programming, and your ego is in the driver's seat, and your soul's bound down by all these egoic bondages in the passenger seat, and your ego is doing the driving. So your ego still has free will; it can make a choice. Your subconscious programming still based on this ego is saying, hey, turn left. And your ego goes, no, I'm not going to turn left. I'm going to keep going straight. So you keep going straight. But you have likely driven to work, as I think most people have, or you get in the car in the morning, you get to work, however long that takes, and you get there and you go, I have no idea how I got here.
Oh, yeah.
And that is all your subconscious programming that got you there without an accident.
Right. No
So,
soul involved
you know,
in that, though, right? I mean, there's no
no soul
driving.
involved at this point. Your soul's bound down because your ego is bound down your soul with all these bondages. So your soul is always prompting you to, go. It wants to go right. When your subconscious programming is say, hey, go left, your ego's going, no, I'm going to go straight. And your soul's going, no, go right, go right. But the ego won't listen because it is so strong and it is so embedded and it's so ingrained in its rightness. And so, and then at some point when you begin this process, you take these bondages off, and the goal is to unwind these egoic bondages of the soul to let your soul gain mastery in your life. So get your soul over into the driver's seat, your ego in the passenger seat, and then your soul can also start to then reprogram the car. And you, until you go through this process, your ego will continue to have control of your life, and your ego will continue to create these experiences for you that come back as rebound forms to burden and wound you throughout your life. And when you gain your soul, when you go through this process to come back to our truth, to come back to being this expression of things that are congruent with where we come from and where we return, then you start to experience, your life begins to change, because what you start to experience is this true expression of self, of soul, that wants to create love and healing and peace in the environment around you, and help other people do these same things.
So everybody's got this unconditional love in them, even like the baddest people, like Pol Pot.
Even the
Pol
baddest
Pot
people
wanted love and kindness and all that.
There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. From a soul perspective, there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's only experiences. And
I can tell you right now, Pol Pot's soul was wrong.
I don't know who Pol Pot is. Sorry.
Pol Pot murdered countless Cambodians, the Khmer Rouge and all that. Slaughtered them.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
Horrible person. Lots of bad things. So did he have a good soul?
His soul is perfect.
That's so weird.
But
Neil,
what you create, but what you create. So when you understand how and
I understand
why,
the whole concept of Jesus take the wheel. Essentially, that's what's going on.
No,
Jesus is the unconditional love. Your soul is the unconditional love. Let it take the wheel. Let it control. Let it guide your life. Yeah, I understand that. It's just like a long-winded way of saying Jesus take the wheel. So
no, Jesus does not take the wheel.
How do you know that? How do you know that Pol Pot had a good soul?
So, because we all come from unconditional love and we all return to it.
How do you know that? How do you know we all come from unconditional love?
So, if it's raining outside and you go outside and you put out your hand and a drop of rain lands in your hand, is that drop of rain in your hand any different than the rain that's falling around you?
The drop of rain different from the rain that's falling around
that's falling around you?
Maybe in shape and size, weight. I don't know. Why?
What's going on? Is it quality? Is in quality and purity? Is that drop of rain any different than the rain falling around you?
I don't know. Honestly, I've never measured it. That's a scientific question I have not looked into.
Well, it's water. It's
okay.
H2O.
So it could be water. There you go. Water's falling from the sky. Yep. Water is all
water's
around.
falling. Yeah. So we'll do it water. So cool. So we won't get caught up in the impurities in the air that get caught in the rain.
Ton of different things in there. Yeah.
Let's just assume it's pure water at this point.
Gotcha.
Water's falling. in the form of rain, and it's pure, and a drop lands in your hand, is that drop of rain in your hand any different than the rain falling around you?
I guess not. Let's just say no.
Okay.
For sake of argument here.
All right. Say no. No, it's not. Okay. If I touch that drop of rain with some green dye, and that drop of rain in my hand now becomes green, is it any different than the quality of the rain falling around me?
It's green now.
It's green, but the quality. So
yeah, I don't know.
the quality of the water is exactly the same. You've just added something to it to make it green.
Yeah. So how's that work with the soul?
So your soul is the same as the drop of the rain. It is pure. Everybody's soul is pure. It is clean water. It is pure. It is clean. Oh no, listen. It is pure.
I'm listening, but it's just another way of explaining why
all of these things that are all this the green water and the red water is only that your soul is masked by your ego, and your egoic behavior is just masking who your soul really is.
Yeah, but Neil, you're not explaining why. You're explaining what you think it is. You're not explaining why you think it's that. That's what I want to know. Why do you think it's that?
Because I've entered into it and I know the truth. I've gained new knowledge. I understand this bridge between science and spirituality.
But you can't tell me how you know this, though. Besides, I went into meditation and I talked to Jesus in my soul.
I've experienced it.
That's weird, Neil. That doesn't explain it, though. That just tells me what you think. But it's not telling me why you think that.
Your intellectual understanding of it is not going to give you that understanding. You have to actually experience it. It's like,
but wouldn't that be intellectual at that point?
It's like going on a roller. It's like going on a roller coaster.
That's an experience.
You cannot describe that experience in words in any adequate way to someone that has never 100% seen a roller coaster
fast,
or experienced a roller coaster.
Gut goes out from underneath you. Lots of screaming, excited turns. Of course, I can describe that. Of
course,
you
can describe it, and that person's going to go, I have no idea what you're talking about.
They've never felt high speeds, sharp turns, screamed and
never experienced.
Never had their stomach.
So how are you going to describe it?
Them?
So how are you going to describe that to someone that's never experienced it?
Human being at this point.
You have to enter into it to experience it.
No, I don't think that's true either. But it's very interesting, and I appreciate you trying to explain it to me. I guess I'm just not going to get the why. I have to experience it for myself. I've meditated. I've done that before and never experienced it.
But you have to know the purpose. You have to know the purpose of meditation and how and why what you're doing.
You have to believe.
So until you learn this proper meditation and how and why what you're doing, you'll not necessarily go through this process.
But do you have to believe
meditation
first?
There's a very specific meditation that you have to go through in order to do this.
Correct. But do you have to believe first?
You have to go in with faith.
Believe. You have to believe.
And no doubt. You have to go in with doubt. No doubt. When you doubt, you create a consciousness form.
What else do you
When you
do
doubt,
that
you
for?
create a consciousness form. When you doubt, you create a consciousness form that will block you from learning the things that you need to learn.
I appreciate you sharing your opinions with us today, Neil. It's been very interesting, and I want you plug it where you can find your stuff.
Anywhere books are sold, you can find it. On Amazon. It's called A Higher Road: Cleanse Your Consciousness to Transcend the Ego and Ascend Spiritually. A 7-step process to inner peace, joy, love, abundance, and prosperity. If you go to ahigherroad.com, you can learn more.
God, thank you so much, Neil. Live long and prosper, man.
Yeah, exactly. I can't do that, but that's good.
Come on.
No, Spock can do it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leonard Nimoy could do it well.
Yeah, he'll be missed. All right, man. We'll keep in touch. Talk to you later. Stay safe out there.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, Michael.
And that's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to patreon.com/BSW the podcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will give you access to the patron feed, unaired conversations, early access to each episode, and much more. For the latest events, BSW swag, and a peek behind the scenes, head on over to the show's ever-evolving webpage at thebiblesayswhat.com. The Bible Says What the book is out. Head on over to thebiblesayswhat.com and get yourself and your grandma a signed copy. Thanks to the cosmic powers of the internet, it is now possible to buy me a beer or coffee online. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/BSW the podcast and click the appropriate buttons. If you can't support the show monetarily, please like, share, and or leave a review. As always, you can find me at the Bible Says What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram pages. You can also reach me at bswthepodcast@gmail.com. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly pick up your Bibles and read them? Can I do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor? What would you do with a drunken sailor early in the morning? Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave it.